a very warm welcome back to the garden. I feel like I haven't spent much time here, and that's because I haven't. And so today I just thought I'd bring you along because today is starting to get this ready for the new growing season. Some things have been done, like the beds have been mulched, the leaves are breaking down really nicely. I'm really pleased with the progress, because as you can see in front of me, I've got some plants. Now I need to admit something. I placed these onions on the floor of the polytunnel, and they rooted into the floor. But fear not, I will still plant them and they'll still be absolutely fine. And this year again, I'm going for quite a nice polyculture mix within the garden. So yeah, lots of jobs to crack on with, lots of things to plant. But firstly, I'll maybe just show you a couple of the little highlights that we have at the moment. Now this hotbed was what I sowed when ITV, Alan Titchmarsh's gardening club, came to visit and film. And it's doing pretty well. There's a little gap where there needs to, a couple of spinach didn't appear, but it will become a nice famous hotbed. I think the 31st is when it will come out of March. Now I'm actually going to do the first harvest. I'll put the date when this was sown. You'll see how rapid it is, but look at that, my first little radish. This variety of radish is 18 days. I think it's like French breakfast, 18 days. And I'm going to work out how many days it has taken from sowing to this, which is cool. And we've been using it as well to germinate stuff. All of the tomatoes are out. Sam, who is holding the camera, did a sterling job of potting up all of those tomatoes. This here is scabious. I'm trying to grow a lot more cut flowers in and around the garden this year, which will be interesting, bringing in that cut flower angle to the polyculture of edibles. But really pleased with this. And at the bottom there's something pretty cool, which is here. You can see these little green things growing. This is comfrey. I had this genius permaculture idea of stacking functions, and because this is on a slight slope, I thought, well, if you put comfrey at the base, it can soak up any extra fertility or nutrition, especially when it rains, and I can use this as a crop to harvest to create my liquid feed to then feed the tomatoes that grow in the polytunnel, which were germinated in the hotbed. What a beautiful system. Now, I want to talk to you about a particular thing about hotbeds that is really important, and I've just realised as well, I get to eat my first pea shoot of the year. Usually it's pea shoots and lettuce that get me, like lettuce as well. One of the things is, it's been a really busy year. Some of you might know why. And a lot of the days where it's been warm, I haven't actually ventilated the hotbed. Now what that causes is just a little bit of like algae growth on the top. There's a little kind of green tinge, but everything is nice and healthy. And because the daytime temperatures don't get too hot, it's absolutely fine. So I found over the years that hotbeds, they kind of can put up with quite a bit and you're still going to get success. So if you do see a bit of that green, don't worry about it. I've had it before in a previous hotbed that did absolutely fine and produced a huge amount of food. Just try and ventilate it when you can. But no, I'm pleased. I reckon I could have my first salad tonight, actually. Now, we have a little bit of a problem in this garden. Usually we set up a shot and Sam was like, the polytunnel. It is a little bit ugly. Now, in terms of the first cool goal of this garden being the self-sufficiency garden, it pumped out so much food, and it will always pump out so much food, but I want this to feel like an edible jungle like it did last year. And so what I'm thinking is, well, I've got some sweet peas to plant out, some beautiful sweet peas from Alma Proust, and they are desperately needing to go out. And so I thought, well, if we're looking at the view upwards, I can put a sweet pea structure here and start really building the vertical layers around the polytunnel, which would actually benefit the polytunnel during the heat of summer, just adding a little bit of shading. Not that much, but a little bit, but it's also shading for the eyes. And so what I have here, I'm just going to go through and select, and I'm going to build the typical kind of wigwam-esque TP trellis structure thing for the sweet peas. And usually the way I do that is I get eight bits of bamboo, like that. Then I check that they're roughly the correct way around, which I think they are. And then I'm gonna place them to create a nice structure and tie it, and then I can actually plant out the first sweet peas of the season. And these are very cool varieties. I'm excited. There will be vegetables later. Always ask a supervised adult to do this or whatever. I need help. That's why you're here, Sam. That's the only reason why you're here. There we go. One of the lovely things about sweet peas is that it brings in that colour to your kitchen table whilst you're eating all of your vegetables. And I've got 3 different varieties here, David Tostavin, Castle Wellen and King's Ransom. I've got 2 of each, so I'm just going to split them up. I'm going to mix it up, so hopefully, I mean, even as it will grow, it will all mix up and look interesting. But 3 lovely little colours, a nice scheme of kind of pink, cream and purple, and yeah, I'm just going to get these planted. As part of my efforts to try and pack as much food in this garden as possible throughout the year, I'm putting in more perennials. This here is Keeper's Kale from Incredible Vegetables, and there's a purple tree collard in that corner which has just added this beautiful structure right throughout winter. And so I thought, you know what, I can add something else. And it's really nice that this soil is so beautiful. I put down some compost, I then mulched it thickly with leaves. Okay, there are a few weeds coming through, but it's nothing that a hoe can't deal with. It's a small garden, and so maybe the trade-off of creating healthy soil for lower cost is you get a few weeds, and I'm totally okay with that. And so it's also chop and drop with everything else from the garden. So I'm just going in, kind of just making a fairly large hole, and I'm gonna plant this in the corner, and then the idea is that this will kind of occupy this space and bring us some more greenery and also soften the view of the big polytunnel. Next up, another thing that needs to go out is I've got some field beans here, and I've grown these in root trainers. And so root trainers work very well because they just train the roots and you can use them time and time again. I think I actually should have given these a water, but you can kind of see how the roots grow, and then you can pull them out and transplant them. So I'm going to have a nice patch of field beans which are really productive, and I find, well, they're much cheaper to grow than broad beans. Now, because there is a little bit of space in between, and I do have some spare peas which I think I'll put in the polytunnel probably tomorrow or something, I am going to interplant and just use these peas as just a little crop for pea shoots. So there's no, you know, harm in doing that. They're not really going to impact the rest of these, and I'm not growing them for the pods, but I could probably squeeze in an extra one at the top there as well. And as well, the way they'll grow, they'll just create a bit of ground cover, and then the beans will grow through, so nice and easy. So these here are some foxglove apricot that I sowed last year, and I'm going to plant a little clump just for a bit of colour. And just a little tip in terms of knowing what to sow. If you search sow.today, every week I update a sowing list based on my climate, and there's a bit of variations, but it's all explained there. So if you're ever wondering, if you're ever in the garden and you're thinking, what should I sow today? Well, head to sow.today and you'll have my list over on Substack. Now, the main thing with foxglove is you've got to be careful about what you plant underneath, just because of the toxins, especially falling from the flowers, I believe. At least that's what people have told me, so I'm just reiterating that. Have I had time to Google it? No. But I am thinking about it. So if you're, say, growing your lettuces underneath and you're not gonna wash them, then that's probably not a very good idea. But I'm putting these in just to add a nice pop of colour, a nice kind of invite as you come into the garden. And I'm interested to see how these turn out. So I'll probably turn this into a bit of a nice herby cut flower area anyway, and then keep the veg either side. So what I'm going to do as well this year is just have a couple of little patches of onions. I can just make a bit more space actually, because this kale is coming out. I'll put in another structure here. By the way, I'm really enjoying the way that the leaf mold is breaking down, and again, how the soil looks underneath, this kind of mulch covering. I think it works nice. A lot of people go, oh, it doesn't look pristine, but I'm focused on the health of the soil as much as possible. But the other nice thing is, it means when I plant, so I'll just do one now, I'll select and carefully pull through what I can. When I plant the onion, I'm going to make sure all the roots are kind of around the base, put the nice soil directly underneath it, and then I can protect it by getting some of this mulch and mulching around the base. And so I'm going to do a little clump of onions here, probably just working around this curve, and then I'll just find another place around the garden. Now, even though this is very much a wild garden, I'm trying to tame whatever I can as early on in the season to then let it be wild rather than pure chaos from the start, and that isn't actually going to be any use when it comes to harvesting. So we've got to find that balance. One of the things that I have here is a fantastic thornless blackberry, and I'm going to bring in, we've got a lot of different things coming out and rooting. There might be something to layer, but I'm actually just going to cut back some of this old growth, especially this one that I can go down at the bottom, pull it out. There is some other growth tips coming out, but it's just not as vibrant as these ones. So usually with trailing berries, they fruit on last year's growth. So this stuff, which is looking nice, this is what will bear the fruits for this year. And so everything else, I can just, I'll probably end up chopping and dropping that to begin with, but I just want to have a clear space to work around so I can see everything with what I've got to work with, start to take out some of the old growth, and then pin in using this nice fence that we've got, weaving it in and out like we've got it further down, so this kind of becomes a nice like little wall of blackberries. So on this main stem here, the leader, it was probably one of the storms over winter, it has split it, but there's this really nice other long leader, which it's a sub leader that I'm now going to promote it to primary leader, take out this damaged growth, because whenever you're pruning, you've got to remember the 3 Ds. You want to remove anything that is dead, damaged or diseased. Maybe disdamaged should be a new thing, a new gardening term. And it is sad because look at all this growth that I'm losing, but again I can chop that up, use it to mulch. But now as I step back, as long as I'm careful with it, because these are fragile, they are plants, I've got this new leader which I am going to carefully kind of weave, and then I'll end up tying in to the fence like that. I'm just keeping it light, I'm not doing it like perfection like you'll see at some like of these big estates, but I'm quite keen on the idea of using the fence as, with its natural properties, as the kind of core trellis, and allowing it to come out. But you can see I probably won't even bother tying these, and you can see now I've started to open up all of this space, and I've just got to decide what I'm doing with some of these other ones. So now it's kind of the part where you do have to be a little bit more brutal with the pruning if you're trying to have some kind of form. And the other thing is, I want this area to be open. This is vital growing space. Instead of this sprawling in, it's not utilising the full effect of the vertical. So by shifting the growth from down to up, once all this comes back, I've got all of this space where I can grow more things. And I'm just looking here, most of these will come out, but I have got this longer one, but sadly, it's probably because I stepped on it, that is damaged. And with damaged things, I could be kind and give it benefit of the doubt and it'll probably still work. But I have got enough canes here. So try not to hit Sam again, throwing canes. This one, the shape isn't quite there, but it will kind of utilize this lower layer. And if I placed it, I don't know, up against and actually poked it through, because we have access on the other side, it means I can harvest berries just on the other side. Now, in terms of shape and having some dominant ones, I'm quite happy with this. I could put this up as well, but I'm just gonna actually just not think too hard and take out the rest of the growth. If I can not try and chop a stone in half, then it means as I step back, look at all of that space that I've opened up. If we weren't filming, this is probably about a 1 minute job, and that's all it requires to tame it, open that all back up, and another job off the list. Now, this was a type of Japanese turnip that we grew last year. Just kept it in the ground all through the year, all through winter, and as I'm sat down here, I can see lots of little flies and bugs and all sorts of things. When the sun comes out, there are usually some hoverflies and honeybees, but it smells amazing. Like the fragrance here, if you had hay fever, I'm sorry, I don't recommend sitting here. But these flowers are edible, so it's giving you, if you're not so keen on the turnips, you can enjoy these flowers. Also, like the flower shoots are edible. The lovely thing is that they're actually really quite nice and tender. So you can go through and pick off every second top if you want to keep some for the flowers. And yeah, it's it kind of like just this amazing kind of honey smell. But it adds that bit of colour, and it's a different type of Hunger Gap crop. And yeah, I just wanted to show it off a little bit. Ah, there we go. There you go. Okay, if I went on a flight now, I'd probably get kicked off because I'm spreading biological seed. I'm a hazard. True words have never been spoken. So, what I'm now just focusing on is carrying on around the garden, including this. This was a big weedy mess, but just clearing as many parts as possible. I'm getting a lot of compost material, which is great, but I've also got a little treat for the chickens. What are you doing there, Missy? Oh, yes. You're right there. It's like a little floating island. It's like what my Minecraft floating islands look like. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget the permaculture garden is out now in North America, and I'll catch you soon.